Well, folks, welcome to one more edition of Politics and Run. I'm Berto Willis, your host. Thank you so kindly for being a part of the show. We are going to have a great show for you today. Brige MCP, welcome aboard. Bruce Pollard, welcome aboard. He says, let's discuss why our Texas senators are afraid to vote for a bipartisan team to understand January 6th. Bruce, do you really need the answer to that? We know what the answer is because many are complicit, including El Señor Cruz. Jessica Taylor, welcome aboard. Michael Rudnin, welcome aboard. Heck, no Republican wants to discuss January 6th. No, they don't. Paul Fleming, how about the big oil companies announcing decline in production to help climate change? I wonder why. You know, it's funny because all the things that they're doing, remember, Houston is at near sea level. All those refineries in Houston, Louisiana, Beaumont, and all these places will be underwater. So I wonder why they have to think about that. Linda Jo Kessinger, welcome aboard. Let's see who else is here as I scroll up the list. Paul Fleming, welcome aboard. ATL checking in on time. All right, let's get busy with Michael Rudnin. You know, Michael Rudnin comes with the narrative every time, and I love it. Biden to push $6 trillion U.S. budget for next fiscal year. If we are to forestall global warming, nothing short of a World War II level effort will suffice. It looks like President Joe Biden is listening. Biden is set to release his first full budget since taking office in January as he seeks to push his priorities investing in infrastructure, child care, and other public works in national rebuilding effort. Biden's proposal would put the nation on track for its highest sustained level of spending since World War II. Número dos, Biden warned not to abandon key climate plans to appease science-denying Republicans. If Democrats decide the climate priorities can be put off for later, don't be surprised if young people put off voting for them again. Exactly. We have got that 81 million people that voted. Those aren't our regular voters. We brought a whole lot more people into the fold. We promised them. I remember going out there and walking the Latino neighborhoods in the barrios out here in Houston. And people were saying, why do yo no necesito votar, no, nada pasa, why do I need to vote? Nothing really happens. And I said, no, this time is different. And I enumerated a whole lot of stuff. You see that trash that's there, we are going to make policy that really matters to you now. Le decía todo eso en español. I was speaking to because a lot of these folks don't vote. You know, a lot of this, the area that I was in was Latino, but not only Latino, but Spanish-speaking Latino. So, you know, we got into these kinds of discussions. They expect results. Michael Rudnin is right. We start pussyfooling or however the word is used, and we're not going to get it done. I won't read the rest of that. You get the gist. White House to face key decision on climate, elder care, a bipartisan deal with GOP emerges. Jeff Stein fluid but infrastructure deal with GOP likely cuts out key climate items, ending fossil fuel subsidies, $200 billion retrofit of U.S. buildings and homes, $500K on EV stations, the electric grid, CX prior to tweet, climate resiliency dollars in the White House, confident it can get this later. No, you cannot be confident you get it later. As the election approach, if the Republicans' false machine gets people thinking, oh my God, it's climate change at the expense of your food. It's climate change at the expense of inflating your cost, which they're good at doing. You know, this is stuff that you have to push through now. We have to get this done now. I'm with you, Michael. Powerful signal. In a single day, big oil suffers historic blows on climate courts, customers, and Wall Street. Yeah, I heard that was good. We got some board members that got onto the boards of some oil companies. We also got the court in, I think it's in Holland, that says by 2030, they have to have X amount of reduced carbon. So it's getting serious, and it's a good thing. By the way, Rudnin, that website has a security risk on it from my virus checker, so I won't be able to go there. If you find that, if you find it or can place it somewhere else that is not a security risk, I'll take a look at it. Michael also says, I just hope it's big enough to cover our nations. Yes, it better be. All right, talking to the other folks that have checked in, Bridge MCP, Julie Van Assel, I think I checked you out. Bruce Pollard, was that a pun? Underwater? No sé, hermano. Egberto, as it comes to cities going underwater, oh, no. Actually, I'm serious. Houston is not much above sea level. I think at our highest point, it's about 50 feet above sea level or something like that. I don't recall exactly. Actually, here in Kingwood, my house is at 66 feet above sea level, if I recall the last measurement I took, and sinking, of course. Micro Egberto, as it comes to cities going underwater, our first new Atlantis is most likely going to be Miami or New Orleans. By the way, let me just inform you. Much of New Orleans is already below sea level. It's in a bowl. Those levees are the ones that hold the water back from flooding the entire New Orleans. They have the biggest pump system, I believe, in the country to get the water out of the city. Bridge MCP, anyone else have sound and video off? Oh, God, I hope not. Please don't tell me the sound and video are off. I hate when that happens. You guys can let me know if that's off. And, I'm not going to reboot, but I just hope that it catches up because I know sometimes that can become distracting. Okay, I have sound and video according to Linda Van Dastel. Okay, Egberto, didn't you know you had an ese Mexican accent? Behave yourself. Mi cuñado es mexicano. Él es de Guanajuato. Anyhow, let's continue. Let's see what else I got. Jessica Taylor says, MCP, no problem here. Michael Rudnin, I'll repost that from a different hosting site. Let's see if I can get to that. Oh, that one that you have is not good. Audio, video, good. Okay, let's go ahead and get busy. Jessica, now mine isn't syncing. Oh, please, folks, please sync. Anyhow, the first thing that I want to tell you is the title of the show today is Evangelicals Challenged by Faithful Left. Elizabeth Warren destroys JPMorgan. I should be putting this on the screen likely. And more. So Franciscan Action Network's Jason Miller wants to dispel the false narrative of the evangelicals. Elizabeth Warren destroys, Jamie Dimon, Biden hits, the GOP hypocrisy. But before I get into all of that, there's a video that I saw. And what I want to do with that video is I want you guys to see it because it makes a mockery out of how we deal with health care. I just happened to come up on the video on one of the websites that I love. Of course, that is Common Dreams. So check this out. I think this is it. Let's see. I better get that video. Come on, folks. It was a good video. I better have that. There we go, right here. Check it out.
Grab the wrinkly dog, 11 letters, and it's a rhyme.
Grab the wrinkly dog, and it's a rhyme?
Hey, my apartment's on fire. It's right around the corner. Come on.
Whoa. First things first. Are you insured?
Yes, sorry. Here you go. If we could just hurry, though, that'd be great, because my apartment's literally on fire.
We got a slight issue here.
What issue?
It says here you're behind on your premium payments.
Really? I don't think so.
I do. It's right here on your file. $660.
Oh, my bad. Can we just take care of that later?
No can do. See, your specific provider, Bright Shield Protector Fidelity Horizon, says you need up-to-date premium payments for your provider to be reimbursed. Can you not talk over me?
I was talking with you to support you.
So the thing is, I haven't reached my deductible anyway, so it would all be out of pocket.
Right, but to get credit towards your deductible, you need to have up-to-date premium payments.
Okay. Sorry. Here you go. Here's my credit card. If we could just hurry, though, that'd be great, because my apartment is literally on fire.
So sorry, but we don't take American Express. Talking over me.
Oh, sorry. Here you go.
Actually, hold up. This isn't your home precinct.
It should be. I live right around the corner.
New address?
Yeah, we moved a couple months ago.
Well, that's an issue because your primary care precinct is still tied to your former address. This precinct is out of network for you, so I'm gonna need a referral.
A referral? There's a fire in my apartment. Right now!
Oh, dear.
What?
Did you recently change jobs?
Yes, so what?
There's a gap in your insurance.
Your old coverage was tied to your old job, so when you shifted jobs...
My home is literally burning down!
Hey, could be worse.
How?
Was it on fire when you moved in?
No, of course not.
Seen it before, and then it's a pre-existing condition and it's
Not covered. See how it feels?
I kind of like it.
Oh,
What?
the crossword. Carpe Sharpe.
Ooh, nice pull.
This is absurd!
It would be absurd if we ran fire departments like this.
So why do we run healthcare this way?
I want you guys to think about that. Why do we run healthcare the way? And you know what? With a fire department, we're talking about property. So property defense is socialized, right? We all pay for the fire department, and if whoever gets a fire in their home, the fire department comes out and takes care of business. Shouldn't healthcare be like that? Protecting this body? We protect capital, but this body we can't protect in the same manner we protect the homes, the cars, the houses. Isn't there something wrong with us people that we allow them to corrupt us in such a manner that we will screw ourselves to make a lot of people, or rather to make a few people a whole bunch of money? Come on, we are better than that. Now, Rudden and I was able to pull that one up, but before I place what Biden has there, I have a video to show you guys of Biden today scorching Republicans. Remember, Republicans didn't want anything to do with the American Rescue Plan. They said it was bad. They didn't give it not one vote. Yet, they wanted to take credit for it. And today, El Señor Biden, El Presidente Biden, zinged them for that. Check this out.
We had no problem passing a $2 trillion tax plan that went to the top 1% that wasn't paid for at all, just increased the debt $2 trillion. Every time I talk about tax cuts for working class people, it's, oh my God, what are we going to do? Well, we're going to take back some of that 1% money and make them pay for it. And thanks in part to part of the rescue plan named for an Ohio labor leader, Butch Lewis, championed by Sherrod Brown, who I don't think Sherrod's here today. Hundreds of thousands of retirees and workers across Ohio and millions more across the country can trust that their pensions they work so damn hard for and sacrificed to secure will be there for them. Unlike my dad, who busted his neck his whole life, and when the company went on, he lost his pension completely. Even my Republican friends in Congress, not a single one of them voted for the rescue plan. I'm not going to embarrass any one of them, but I have here a list of how back in their districts they're bragging about the rescue plan. They touted the restaurant revitalization fund. They touted the fact that we're in a situation where they're dealing with touted grants to community health care centers. Touted, I mean, some people have no shame. But I'm happy. I'm happy they know that it benefited their constituents. That's okay with me. But if you're going to try to take credit for what you've done, don't get in the way of what we still need to do.
Imagine that. That's what they're doing. That is what they're doing. Okay, here is the link for Michael Rudnin about Biden's tweet. It says, across the country, we have failed to properly invest in infrastructure for half a century. The American Jobs Plan will get millions of Americans good-paying union jobs, repairing our country's crumbling infrastructure. It's a blue-collar blueprint to rebuild America. And that is absolutely true. That is what we have got to do. And by the way, that video, I'll make a little blog about this video here that I just did, that I just kind of incorporated from that website. So stay tuned. Anyhow, people, we have another video for you where Elizabeth Warren really laid into Jamie Dimon, JPMorgan Chase CEO. And a lot of people give him a break because they think he's a Democrat, right? But he's a plutocrat. And, you know, I don't care if a plutocrat is a Democrat or whatever the hell they are. If what they're doing is hurting the American people, we don't want that. That's not what we stand for. Well, anyhow, I saw a couple of people defending him on TV today and said, hey, JP Morgan returned $353 million of overdraft So why are you hitting him so hard? Because he made $1.5 billion on profit from overdrafts when the United States government forgave Jamie Dimon and all these other cats for their intransigence, for them not paying their bills on time. So check out Elizabeth Warren, and then we'll take it on the other side. Sometimes it becomes difficult. Sometimes it becomes frustrating that some of the biggest defenders of the bankers and the huge capitalists that really are the ones that are taking people to the cleaners, that the ones that are defending them are the ones that they're hurting. I think many times that occur because we are not aware. Many times that occur because enough people don't actually see what they do and the response that they give for the legal thievery that they effect on all of us. I want you to listen to Elizabeth Warren. You know, I love Elizabeth Warren just like I love Katie Porter. They are never fearful in going against these CEOs who, with their suit and ties, are nothing more than legalized thugs. I really love the way she handled it. Check this out with Jamie Dimon from Chase, and then we'll take it on the other side.
Your bank, JPMorgan, collects more than 7 times as much money in overdraft fees per account than your competitors. So, Mr. Dimon, how much did JPMorgan collect in overdraft fees from their consumers in 2020?
Well, I think your numbers are totally inaccurate, but we'll have to sit down privately and
So
go through that.
these are public numbers.
And I also want to point out we did not overdraft.
Can you just answer my question?
We
How
did
much
not
did
overdraft
JP
the
Morgan
Fed.
collect?
We did not overdraft at the Fed account. And at any request,
So
if
you
someone
never,
said they needed,
I'm sorry,
they needed
Mr.
COVID
Dimon,
relief,
that was,
they got
Mr.
$120
Dimon, that
million
was not the
COVID relief
question.
on request.
You had an automatic protection. So I'm asking, you were recommended, the regulators recommended you offer that same kind of protection to your customers.
And we
How
did.
much, in fact, did
And
JP
we
Morgan
did.
collect in overdraft fees from their customers in 2020? Do you know the number?
I don't know the number in front of me, but
Well, I actually have the number in front of me.
upon
It's
request, we waived the fees.
$1.463 billion. That's nearly $1.5 billion that you collected from your customers. Now, do you know how much JP Morgan's profit would have been in 2020 if you had followed the recommendation of the regulators and waived overdraft fees to help struggling consumers? In other words, without that overdraft money, would your bank have been in financial trouble?
We waived the fees for customers upon request if they were under stress because of COVID.
You know, I appreciate that you want to duck this question. Do you know how much your profits would have been if you'd actually waived overdraft as the regulators recommended?
We waived the fees every time
The
a
answer
customer asked
is
us
your
to
profits would have been $27.6 billion. I did the math for you. So here's the thing. You and your colleagues come in today to talk about how you stepped up and took care of customers during the pandemic, and it's a bunch of baloney. In fact, it's about $4 billion worth of baloney, but you could fix that right now. Mr. Dimon, will you commit right now to refund the $1.5 billion you took from consumers during the pandemic?
No.
Right now?
No.
No. That's right. Over the past year, you could have passed on the breaks that you got from the Fed to your customers, but you didn't do it. Everybody else here, those other 3 bankers, will any of you agree to refund the overdraft fees that you collected? I didn't think so. So no matter how you try to spin it, this past year has shown that corporate profits are more important to your bank than offering just a little help to struggling families, even when we are in the middle of a worldwide crisis. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
This proves, I mean, she gave him an opportunity. Out of the $27 billion, over $27 billion that they've made in profit, she said, would you give those American people back those overdraft fees, people that have had a hard time, would you give them their money back? He didn't give an answer that says, well, if they come to us and show that it was because of hardship, we'll give them back, or we will try to do the best we can. He knows, or he believes, there's no penalty to pay. So when she says, will you give back those overcharges, those overdraft charges? Diamond just said, no. And then she asks the others, will you do it? Silence. Folks, you've reached a point that those who are pilfering you really don't care. It is really, really time that we take back what is ours. We absolutely so, and Rudnan brought another good graphic that says it all. Let me put it on the screen because I really like this one, Rudnan. I think you hit the nail on the head here. It says, banks collected over $30 billion in overdraft fees last year. Another way of saying that, banks took $30 billion from people that had no money. I want you guys to think about that. That meme is prescient. In other words, the people who overdraft are not just a bunch of irresponsible people. These are people that are struggling. This is an economic downturn. People are dying. People are hurting. And the bankers, when they, at the end of every night, bankers have to make their books whole. So they have to borrow money from the feds, or they have to go interbanking and borrow. Now, interbanking it's called a repo market. It had gotten very tough. The interest rates had gone through the roof because the banking system was not very clean, if you know what I mean, and people were concerned. To solve that, that's one issue, the bankers came in and they said, the feds came in and said, we are going to make you whole. We are going to give you low interest rates. And by the way, we're not going to charge you for overdrafts. Please extend that during this period to your customers as well. The banker said, to hell with our customers. Now, if the customers come and beg us and say, oh, I've been having a very, very hard time, then they'll give you back some money. But most customers just pay the overdraft fee because that's the contract they signed. But why not have a heart? Remember, I always try to make us remember that capitalism has no soul. Capitalism has nothing. The market has no soul. There's no market. The market is a composite of those who want to rip you off. A real market, a free, real enterprise type market is different because it's made up of us all. That is why for things that are major, healthcare, energy, and these particular items should be controlled by we, the people. They like to call that socialism. That's called democratic socialism, democratic. And I'm not going to use the word because I don't want to confuse people right now. But in effect, we get the things that we need from us. And then you want to buy a car, you want to buy a phone, you want to buy all those other things can be in the free enterprised market. The free enterprised market. Folks, before I go to our interview today, I'd like to ask you guys, those of you that are just joining us or that are been with us, please go ahead and share these programs right now on your wall, on your Twitter, on your YouTube. Go ahead and tweet it, Twitch it, do everything so that others can get our word. If more people understood what was really going on and understand that they are not victims. We are made to believe we are victims. Remember that. Remember that. We are taught that we are a victim of this system. We have to abide by the current rules of this system. That's the biggest fallacy out there. If we elect the people who have the values of humanity, they will make sure that we think human first, business second, because the business is there to ensure humanity remains humane. Anyhow, if you could, please support our program. If you're on YouTube, please click that join button. Become a member. If you become a member, I'll throw you up on it right during the show. If you do it live during the show, I'll throw you up on the screen to let folks see, yes, we have somebody else that has just joined the PDR Posse. The PDR Posse ran by Bridge MCP. You can also get one of our mugs, and that all these things that you get help support us. Our mug, the mug is also designed by Bridge MCP, and on the screen right now you're seeing a whole lot of our posse who have purchased the cup and they're drinking out of the cup and showing that they have the cup, like to have more. If you also want to get things like our t-shirts, our hoodies, or masks, our books, all the books that we have, all of that, right? You can get that several places. You can first go to our store if you'd like to. You can get our store at politicsandright.com/store, politicsandright.com/store. You can also go ahead and get all of our books, and I'm going to put some of the books on the screen right now. You can get all our books at politicsandright.com/books, politicsandright.com/books. What are the books? It's Worth It, How to Talk to Your Right-Wing Relatives, Friends, and Neighbors. Get all three because they all work together. How to Make America Utopia. Take away the economy from those who rigged it. And the first one that I wrote was, As I See It, Class Warfare, the Only Resort to Right-Wing Doom. The reason I wrote the first one is for us to understand our economy and how the different presidents and parties actually messed with our economic system and how they either improved it, or whatever. The second book, It's Worth It, How to Talk to Your Right-Wing Friends and Neighbors. If you want to be able to make a change, it's not only progressives that's going to make the change. We have to work together as a team. As a team, that is how you get change. How do you do that with all these right-wing folks that you think don't want to listen to you? I'm telling you, they do want to listen to you if the approach is right. How to Talk to Your Right-Wing Relatives, Friends, and Neighbors. It's Worth It. And the last book is the one that says what utopia is supposed to be. How to make America utopia. How do we create that America that's going to make a difference? Now, I have my ideas. This is going to turn into our forum as well that I'm building on our website, because it's not only about what I think, it's also about what everybody thinks, what they need to have in their own personal economy to create that utopia that we all really, really, really want. So I ask you so kindly to help out with us keeping the message out, empowering people, letting people understand that we are not victims of our economic system. We are not victims of our political system. We are the ones who create a political system that allows an economic system to thrive. And it's our choice whether we do it or not. But to do it doesn't mean allowing the plutocrats who benefit from this to get the last word. Nosotros los poblanos, nosotros, we are the ones that are supposed to make that difference. You can get all my books at politicsandright.com/books. You can also support us via our Patreon, politicsandright.com/Patreon, Patreon, politicsandright.com/Patreon, Patreon. Or, of course, we take the good old PayPal, politicsandright.com/PayPal. politicsandright.com/PayPal. And of course, if you're on YouTube, you can always support us on YouTube by clicking I think the YouTube have a subscribe button or something like that. But anyway, that is how we make changes. Now, today I have a special guest. It's a religious guy. You guys know I'm not religious, but I love my religious folks as well. And I always have Caroline on talking about issues with regards to religion, etc. This guy, I think you're going to like him. Let's go ahead and play Jason Miller and talk about how he is going to reclaim the narrative from the evangelicals. Let's get busy. Welcome to one more edition of Politics and Right. I'm Egberto Wills, your host. Thank you so kindly for being with us, folks. Today we have a special guest. We have Jason Miller, who is a faith-based advocate and organizer originally from Toledo, Ohio, and serves as the co-chair of the Faithful Democracy WIC working group. After earning his BA in History and Religious Studies, Jason entered a year of service with the Jesuit Volunteer Corps in Nashville, Tennessee, working at Catholic Charities Refugee Services. He then relocated to Washington, D.C. area to complete a master's degree in conflict analysis, good stuff, and resolution in George Mason University. Jason has since devoted himself to faith-based communications and advocacy work on behalf of economic justice and climate justice issues, and currently works as the Director of Campaigns and Development at the Franciscan Action Network. Jason, welcome to Politics and Right. How are you doing today?
Thank you so much for having me. I'm great. That was, you gave the full bio there. I need to take you, that was next time on an elevator, can I take you with me? Or
Yes, you
that was
can.
perfect.
But you know what? Let me tell you what I love,
Yeah,
especially in these times. People that are just doing good work, because that is what we need. And you just have to tell me social justice, economic justice, racial justice, and you got me,
yeah.
because we need so much of that right now. Anyhow, tell me a little bit about yourself that I didn't say before we get into some of the meat of what I want to discuss with you.
Sure. Well, sometimes those words, social justice, racial justice, I'm glad you love them. Unfortunately, not everybody does. So
Right.
I'm sure your audience.
I love your little dog. I mean,
Yeah,
that brings a
we're
reality
dog
to
sitting,
it.
so it makes it real, right? As I was
Yes.
trying to take a real important point there. And I don't even know what it was, but I'm glad that you're into social and racial justice, because sometimes those are words that are such loaded terms these days, which is really unfortunate. Because yeah, I'm doing good work, but I learned in JVC, that in Jesuit Volunteer Corps, that everybody's doing work and everybody's just trying to do what they can, and that's really what it's all about. And I've been fortunate and blessed to come to DC and work in faith-based advocacy, but that doesn't make me any better or worse than anybody else. But I'm thankful that I'm doing it, and I'm glad to be here.
Let me tell you, I'm a very political. This is a very political show, progressive show.
Sure.
And personally, I am a humanist, so I don't do the religious thing uh, generally. But one of the reasons I really liked what you do, what many of the others in your domain do, is that what we found over the last several decades actually is religion has been used to corrupt a sect of the religious, our religious body has been
Hmm.
used to corrupt our entire body politic. And in so doing, they have made doing, I mean, they have gone to the point where they have made doing good by we the people a bad thing. They've
Yeah.
adapted a sort of a social economic balance that is completely off whack. What would you say to that?
Yeah, unfortunately, I would agree. There are issues that used to not be partisan, right? And I think a lot of people don't understand that there's political and there's partisan.
Right.
And things that, yes, might be political aren't necessarily partisan. When I worked in refugee resettlement in Nashville with Jesuit Volunteer Corps, I worked with former refugees, and I worked with, a number of conservatives. Refugee resettlement wasn't a partisan issue, and it hurts. It pains me that now it's such a loaded political partisan issue. And voting rights, it's with our work with Faithful Democracy Today. You have 360 plus bills in state legislatures in 47 states they're trying to suppress the vote. And when did access to the vote become partisan? It shouldn't be. Certainly it's political, but it shouldn't be partisan. And there's a misunderstanding of that. And there's this twisting of this idea by folks, and I will say on the right, and or neoliberal, even, if you will.
Yes.
There's this idea that, well, if you're a Christian or you're a person of faith, you act a certain way and you believe certain things. Well, shouldn't you, as a person of faith or as a Christian, believe in access to the vote? And isn't human dignity a big part of being who a follower of Jesus is? I certainly think so. And that's something that we ground our work in with Faithful Democracy, is that if all human beings have dignity and worth, then they should have access to the vote. They shouldn't have their voices drowned out by big money in politics. But unfortunately, there's this misunderstanding of, oh, Christian means to be, you want smaller government, or that you're against certain things or for other things. But that, to me, that's not really what it means to be a Christian. I'm a Christian first. I'm a Catholic first before any political label. And to me, that means that all human beings have dignity and worth. And all of us on the Christian left, all these people also say, oh, where the Christian left, it's coming out of nowhere. Well, we've we've been here all along. We just maybe didn't have the megaphone that other folks had.
Now, let me tell you, Jason, and that is that is one of the reasons when I was introduced to you that I really wanted to have you. Like I said, I'm not a religious show. I'm not religious or anything like that, but religion plays a big part in the American experience. And what we've seen is one sect within our religion, and not a good one at all, have taken over what it is to be religious. And many people who won't necessarily have those beliefs think that it's their responsibility to have those negative beliefs that's been inculcated onto them from the right. And I think people like yourself who are actually doing very good work. I didn't want to immediately get into Faithful Democracy and what you're doing with Faithful Democracy, but I wanted to bring to the floor first the problems that you guys are trying to solve. And I think one of the major problems is who are Christians, who are religious people, and for it not to automatically mean those people who are given the sustenance that others need. We care about the baby as a blastoma, as a fetus, but we don't care about the baby after it's been born to make them whole. We care about we don't care about treating the people, immigrants, the way Jesus would have treated that person going into their home. We don't feed the hungry the way Jesus took turn bread. And I mean, I was formerly.
You got it. I was going to let you just keep quoting the Bible.
No, well, I grew up a Christian. Okay, so please, you can continue that because
I'm a good Catholic, so I try not to quote the Bible. I like to quote Pope Francis, but you're right. I mean, welcome the stranger, right? And that's a key component in both the Hebrew scriptures and the Christian scriptures. And and that is a component of Catholic social teaching is, right, obviously we need to, I'm speaking as a Catholic, care for the unborn, but that also means caring for the unborn, like you said, after that fetus is born and throughout that person's life. I mean, if people are hungry, if they are thirsty, if they are without a home, we can't discard them. We can't push them aside. As Pope Francis says, we have this throwaway culture. And we, it shows that he's right. And we definitely have some priorities that are backwards in this country when we just throw people away.
Now, you earlier in our commentary, you said one of the issues with many of the religious on the right is they have a big megaphone. And my question then is, how do we help? I'm trying to do the little part that I can. How do we help those who, the religious folks who really want to help people? How do we get them that megaphone? How do we make sure that you guys are expressive as you need to be to give those people who are religious and think they need a place, but that place seems to be only there on the right? How do we do it?
Well, FranciscanAction.org is our website. We do take donations. We are a nonprofit, right? We're talking about how there is that big megaphone. Unfortunately, money does play a role both in our politics, but also in.
Repeat that. I want to make sure people get that.
Yeah, FranciscanAction.org. And, if you're not able to make a donation, that's okay. But I felt like that was the first thing I had to say. Certainly you can sign up to our e-newsletter. We are on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, get engaged. If it's not with FAN, as we call ourselves, it's, calling your members of Congress, it's calling your senators, it's, picking up the phone, not just tweeting. Emails, okay, but phone calls are best. And if you're like me, I like to leave those messages after 5 p.m. You don't even have to talk to another person. So if it's to advocate for S1, the For the People Act, if it's to advocate for the Green New Deal, if it's for comprehensive immigration reform, pick up your phone because your senators need to hear from you. And I don't care what state you are in, who your senators are. You still need to do that. And as it's important to say, to do that as people of faith and say, I'm a person of faith and this is what I believe.
Now, you gave the Franciscan website, and so far with your thing, I've been quoting the faithfuldemocracy.us.
Yeah,
What's the relationship, and should people
sure.
be going to both websites to do their
Please
thing?
go to both. So I am, as I think you mentioned in my bio, the director of campaigns and development at the Franciscan Action Network, and I also help to co-facilitate and co-lead the Faithful Democracy Coalition.
Tell us a little bit about Faithful Democracy.
Yeah, and so what Faithful Democracy is, it's a coalition of faith-based organizations and advocacy groups and even denominations that work on good governance and democracy issues. We're mostly based in DC, but we've really been expanding our reach and working to find other faith voices just, not in the DC Beltway bubble. And and one of the great things that we're doing, you can find out about our work at faithfuldemocracy.us. You can sign on to our voters covenant there. And we're advocating for getting big money out of politics and for access for all people to vote, all citizens. And so that's why we're advocating right now for the For the People Act S1. And we just put an organizer on the ground in West Virginia. And that's going to be important now that we're really expanding our work, organizing on the ground, just not only doing, sort of inside the Beltway advocacy.
I got a rant from one of our listeners that I am going to post sometime soon. And he spoke about progressives in general. He was talking about Democrats, but I think it covers progressives as well, have just about ceded the rural vote, ceded places like West Virginia, Appalachia, which really you should have a huge audience based on the needs and what's going on in those areas. How is Faithful Democracy or even the Franciscan Network thinking about addressing that and not necessarily concentrating in the big areas of population expanse?
Yeah, that's a really great question. I think oftentimes, on the East Coast here, there is sort of that divide of that DC sort of, they want to write off West Virginia, they want to write off Toledo, they want to write off Kansas. I have a good friend of mine, a former colleague who is from Wichita, and he's saying, don't forget about us. If we organize around issues, if we, if we truly do the work, we can win folks over. I mean, I always point to my fiance is from St. Louis. If you look at Missouri, right, they always vote for a candidate with a certain letter after their name, but they also vote for things like healthcare and for supporting unions. And if you vote, if there are issue areas, if there's ballot initiatives around issues, they always vote for the more progressive issue, but they're voting for the more conservative candidate. So clearly there's a disconnect there, and it's about messaging. It's not forgetting about and leaving behind those folks in St. Louis, in Wichita, and in Toledo, in West Virginia.
I think that is so important, and I think that is a lesson not learned by either the Democratic Party and many of the progressive groups that are stationed in many of our cities, as far as not trying to create a base in these areas. Because when we do polling on issues, and you're absolutely correct, specifically when we do polling on issues like Medicare for all or the contents of the Green New Deal and many other aspects of what we would normally call the progressive agenda, what you find is that they're not just majorities, but in most of these issues, there are super majority support from the rank and file of not party, but of people. And it needs, I think, from all aspects, and I think that is where somebody like yourself is so important, because you represent a demographic that can go into a West Virginia with a different thought process, a different methodology to actually, build a base. And I wish more would do it. I understand that, I'm looking at your Faithful Democracy and see that, I mean, you're all over the place with the support that you've got. I mean, from Jewish to Mormon to Christian to Islamic.
Yeah, we're truly interfaith.
And I'm like, this is the type of faithful democracy I'm looking for.
Yeah, exactly. And you're right, not just on things like the Green New Deal and Medicare for all, but if you look specifically at polling in West Virginia, people overwhelmingly support getting big money out of politics. They support increasing voter access. They support the For the People Act. So why aren't, and Senator Manchin, he co-sponsored in the last Congress, but why aren't Senator Manchin and Senator Capito, why aren't they supporting the For the People Act? That's a good question, because, I know that they are about listening to their constituents and listening to people in the Mountaineer State. Well, look at the polling. So it's in some ways it's about messaging, right? I'm sure you know that. And it's that megaphone of money on the other side, if you will, but it's also, how those messages are used and how they're often used against issues that people actually do support.
Well, let me tell you, Jason, we are surely going to do our part to get your message out and those who you represent to get that message out. And we hope that you'll be on many other platforms so we can get this kind of message out, because it's important that we do. Now, I always ask this question at the end, and that is, please tell me what you want to tell our audience that I simply didn't ask you about.
Oh, there's so much. I already gave the plug, right, for the Franciscan Action Network website, franciscanaction.org, and Faithful Democracy, faithfuldemocracy.us. I already said, please call your senators. And we have resources on our website if you're like, I've never done that. How do I do that? Pick up the phone after 5 p.m. and call that switchboard or Google your senators' numbers. Tell them that you care about these issues, right? That you care about the For the People Act, that you care about the John Lewis Voting Rights Act, that you care about DC statehood. I don't want to forget that issue as well, is that it often gets lost in the shuffle. You have a city that's 45% African American and over 700,000 people. That's more than Vermont, that's more than Wyoming, and they are disenfranchised. And it's, again, that shouldn't be a partisan political issue. That shouldn't be a partisan, oh, well, they're all going to vote a certain way. Well, but shouldn't they just be allowed to vote and have representation? We're taxed here in DC. So why don't we have an equal voice and an equal say? And let me just say too, that for all those folks on the left, for Dems, Puerto Rican statehood's a completely separate thing, and that's a whole other podcast. But certainly for DC, don't forget about us. And, again, as we advocate for that with Faithful Democracy, and we advocate for so many issues in the spirits of Francis and Claire with Franciscan Action Network, immigration reform, climate change, gun violence prevention. We just had another mass shooting in San Jose yesterday. What is it? I guess it's just a sad reality that we have to live with now. The pandemic is ending. People are going to be outside more. Does that mean we're going to have more mass shootings? I mean, it just shouldn't be that way. And we're so gridlocked here on Capitol Hill in DC. And that's why we need people to pick up their phones and call their senators, especially people of faith, and say, hey, I want these bills passed. I want comprehensive immigration reform. I want comprehensive gun violence prevention legislation. I want the For the People Act. I want the Green New Deal.
I think that is so important. Just before we leave here, the gun issue, again, it's bewildering, because most Americans want some sort of good, effective gun control. No other country suffers multiple mass shootings several times a month. If people can't understand that, if there's a preponderance of guns out there, that people will use it. Yesterday I wrote a quick little post where I said, because here in Texas, we're now allowing anybody to just go out and buy a gun if you're over 18 or over 21.
Right. But then you're also passing voting restrictions at the same time.
Exactly. And what that means is, if everybody has a gun and somebody's on the freeway, a good person can have a bad moment.
Yeah.
And a good person with a bad moment with a gun can turn that person into a murderer.
Yeah, a deadly moment. Yeah. That's for sure. I don't believe in that whole good person with a gun thing. I mean, both of my parents are the retired public school teachers, and my dad decades ago, I think I can say this in public. He was an NRA member, before it got super political. He grew up in the country, grew up hunting and shooting guns, and that's decades ago the NRA wasn't political. And I asked him one time, once that started to come up, would you have a gun in the classroom, knowing that he would be comfortable with guns and that and he said no. He said I would never. He couldn't ever bring himself. If I would trust anyone with a gun, it would be him. But he said he would never be able, even if there was a mass shooter at his school, to bring himself to actually shoot another student. He just couldn't bring himself to do that. And that was the narrative for a long time, right? Oh, just arm people, just get more guns out there. But we know that more guns, if you have a gun in a home, there's a higher incident rate of death and accidents.
In that,
So more guns are not the answer. We know that. And if we look again, public opinion polling, NRA members today, they want comprehensive gun violence prevention legislation.
it is amazing. We have to start making the politician look like what the people are wanting and acting that way. Look, Jason.
Yeah, and it's the money in politics. It's the money that the
Absolutely.
NRA has. They're writing checks to our senators. That's why we need to overturn Citizens United. We need a constitutional amendment to overturn it and make the playing field equal and even again, and make sure that our members of Congress actually listen to the people, not the big money.
It's been my pleasure to have El Señor Jason Miller, Director of Campaigns and Development, Franciscan Action Network, and he also works with the Faithful Democracy. Look, thank you for all the work that you do. Thank you for what you're trying to accomplish. It is so important. It's been my pleasure to have you on Politics Done Right.
Thank you so much. It's been a pleasure to be on, and thank you for having me on and continuing to use your voice and to speak out. That's what we all need to do.
Thank you. Well, folks, I hope you enjoyed that. I sure enjoyed speaking to Jason. Anyway, folks, we are coming close to the end of the show. We've got about 3 more minutes to go. Let me run through. Michael says shootings never stopped during the pandemic of 2020. Was the deadliest gun violence year in decades. Shooting deaths in 2020 outpaced the next highest recent, which was 2017, more 3,600. Wow, I didn't realize that. The rise, other alarming trends. Last year, the United States saw highest one-year increase in homicides since it began. That one, I believe, again, people are in close context. Okay, Jason, thank you for your effort and for your work, says E2247. Linda Jo Kessinger says, thanks, Egberto and Jason. Good shows. Muchas gracias for the kudos. The single most effective way for fix the gun problem, gun licensing, requiring training for gun ownership, and anyone who fails the licensing requirement shouldn't be allowed to own one. Yo creo que eso es cierto. I think that is absolutely true. Egberto, thank you for hosting, Jason, and in a good way. Of course, look, I am not, I think we ought to be able to have differences in not only what we believe in, but in religion, etc., and still be able to get along. It's one country. And not only that, we are all seeking something, right? We're all seeking the truth. I think I found the truth. Others think that they found the truth through other avenues. Let's go ahead and talk. Let's go ahead and enjoy each other's. Let's go ahead and learn from each other. That's how it's done, brothers and sisters. That's how it is done. Let me do one last plug. Folks, please consider becoming a part of the PDR Posse by clicking on that join button if you are on YouTube. If you are not on YouTube, you can become a member of our posse by going to politicsdoneright.com/YouTube. politicsdoneright.com/YouTube. Peggy Lopez says, late arriving, son-in-law hospitalized in Omaha, Nebraska, 3 years since he entered clinical trial for cancer. This appears to be unanticipated outcome for manipulation of stem cells. I wish you the best, Peggy. Please give your son the regards from the PDR Posse. We are all rooting for your son. Paul Fleming says, I was listening to MSNBC when they said that the thesis company's board of trustees made announcement and a country sues and huge judge in the Netherlands, I think, ruled that by 2030, changes had to be made. Yes, that's the same one AVQ was talking about, meaning Michael Rudnan was talking about. All right, another way, folks, please consider getting our books. You can go to politicsdoneright.com/books, politicsdoneright.com/books. That will take you to our Amazon area that has a list of all our books in different forms, whether it's ebook, paperback, or audiobook. So please consider getting those. Again, all of that helps our programming. And of course, you can all support us via PayPal, politicsdoneright.com/PayPal, politicsdoneright.com/PayPal. Anyhow, you guys can be anywhere, but you're with me. I am honored. Thank you so kindly. My name is Egberto Willies. This is Politics Done Right. And you know how I end this baby. I am what? Out! We spend a lot of time deconstructing the news, trying to parse it into a form that everybody can understand. We try to find those little nitpicks where it flies above the fray, etc. If you really like these videos that we do, I want to ask a big favor. Please go ahead, number one, subscribe to our channel, and number two, please join if you can. Thank you so kindly for watching. Keep watching. Please remember to share. We must populate the entire internet with our progressive message, a message that we know is what most Americans say that they want. So help us, please join.